at you all the way from our dorm rooms to your conference rooms. Saba Ali and Anthony Mann here are two college students who are ready to talk to you guys about business and lifestyle from our personal experiences.
Each week we'll discuss about our lifestyle as college students as well as our tips and strategies starting in the business field. We'll bring on successful entrepreneurs in the millennial generation to share with us their journey and how they got started and where they're at now.
Our goal is to help you students, millennials, and entrepreneurs gain inspirational advice by our spontaneous conversations and meaningful guidance. Let's dive on in.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 64 of Dorm Rooms and Conference Rooms.
Guys, it's another special episode here for our Friday specials. But to get us going, as always, Saba, how are you?
I am doing great. I'm really excited about our guest today, so let's get started, Dan.
Guys, as you all know, I'm so interested in digital marketing that, of course, I brought on another type of digital person that's really making moves in the industry that I'm in these days. Guys, we have Anthony on. We started a company when he was younger, about 20 years old, dropped out of college, sold it, and now he's kind of just working directly with real estate agents, creating apps for them and everything like that. Anthony, that was a really short tidbit about yourself. Can you tell us how you're doing today and talk a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm doing fantastic, and thank you very much for having me on today. So like you said, I started my first company back when I was actually 18. I wound up selling. I'll go into a little bit about it. It was an unlocked cell phone company. So in today's world, every phone that you buy is unlocked. But back then, they were all locked to their specific carriers. And remember, my family was constantly traveling overseas. And basically, he would rent these phones. He would buy these phones, and he never understood why it was so difficult to get a hold of them. And I was talking to him about it, and we wound up getting into this business kind of by accident. And we were one of the first 25 titanium power sellers on eBay. Basically, what that means we were doing $150,000 a month in gross revenue. I kind of saw the writing on the wall after running that company for about 3 years that these carriers are going to go towards making all their phones unlocked. So I actually wound up selling my portion of the company back to the other person I was running the company with. And within 12 months, that company was actually defunct. So I got all my money out of it, which was fantastic for me. Didn't work out as well for him, as you can imagine. But, went to school, wound up leaving my senior year. And I got into real estate. And I am an active real estate agent, quote unquote, for about 12 years now. And about 3 years ago, I started a company called AM Open House. It's an open house management platform for real estate agents. It's a totally free app. You can download it, if you do an open house as a real estate agent. And we've grown that company to about 110,000 active users over the past couple of years. I want to say it was August or September, one of the people I had met in my real estate travels, his name is Alex, we decided to do a social media company together. We developed an app called A Social Strategy. We started, selling that, and people were signing on to it. And that quickly became a totally different business than we thought it was going to be. Where we now have a full-fledged ad agency that we're working with real estate agents. We're developing a course for real estate agents to do Facebook ads and Google ads and all that fun stuff. So it's been quite the adventure over the past 12 years, to say the least.
Yeah, no, definitely. Sounds awesome. So to get us going, as always, we talked a little bit before this interview yesterday, but we're really going to focus on kind of your beginning years, just because I feel like that's what a lot of our listeners are talking about. So kind of take us to that beginning. How did you get into the unlocking cell phone business, really? I mean, I feel like that's such an interesting thing to get into.
It was totally random the way I got into it. So there was a kid who lived on my floor. I went to Binghamton University, and there was a kid who lived on my floor. His name was EJ, and we were just friendly. And like I said, I was talking to my grandfather about him going overseas and having to get these unlocked phones, and it was a pain in the ass, to really put it lightly. And I'm talking to him about it, and he had this idea. He was like, oh, well, maybe we just, start selling this stuff on eBay. And I was like, well, where are we going to get these phones? Are we going to unlock them? So we wound up doing some research, and he found actually a couple distributors on Long Island, which is where we live. We live in New York. And they actually had these phones. And what they did was they sold them to the carriers, and they would lock them when they sold them to carriers. For instance, like if they were selling to Verizon, they would, put some program into it, and it would lock that phone to Verizon. Or if they were selling to AT&T, it would lock that phone to AT&T. So we were able to get in before those phones got locked, and we would, we pay a retail price for them, and we were able to sell them on eBay. And the way we did it was a little different than most people would sell stuff on eBay, right? So most people would say, okay, this phone is worth $100, I'll put it up for $99, and hopefully someone buys it. The problem with that was there's more fees the higher you list on eBay, and we were running at about a 20 to 25% margin, which is good for a business, and we were getting to keep about 10, 11% of that, which is really good. But what happened was we realized those fees were eating into a really large portion of our sales. So we kind of said, how can we do this? And so we realized we were one of the very few people actually selling online cell phones. So we started these auctions, and we did this auctions, not as buy it nows or anything like that, for 99 cents. And these things would get bid up to market value. So for us, it was fantastic. I mean, so obviously sometimes they went a little higher than others, but we always cover our costs. We always made money with it. And it was just a really interesting, really start to my business career, especially, back 10, 12 years ago, when eBay was kind of like the thing. People were trying to figure out what they can sell on eBay. And we found this really small niche that we were able to get into and really make some crazy money doing it.
So Anthony, what made you actually drop out of college? Because some people, when they are starting a business, they might not have the actual willpower to actually drop out and start pursuing their own thing. So what was your mindset like when you did drop out of college?
So really what it came down to was school. So I love learning in general, but school was one of those things for me that just never worked, right? I did really well in certain subjects. I was great at math. I was great at science. But stuff I didn't care about, right? I wouldn't do assignments. I wouldn't do papers. It didn't matter to me if I wasn't interested in it. So what it came down to was, not only was I not doing well in school, but I had this business and I was making money from it. And I kind of said to myself, even if I get a degree, I was going for economics at the time, even if I get this degree, how is it going to change the future of my life by having an economics degree? And when I thought about it, when I sat down and really, crunched it, I realized that it didn't matter, right? The education part of it for me in college was not about the actual school and learning. It was the relationships, it was the networking, it was things that were outside of a learning environment that made my college experience successful. While other people, for what they're doing for a living, will literally need to go to college, right? Like if I wanted to be I don't know, an actuary, if I wanted to be an accountant or a lawyer, right? You have to go to school for these things. You have to know certain things. Unfortunately, in the business world, you could fall on your face 1,000 times, and that 1,001th time, if you create a successful business, you're a success, right? So it doesn't really, for me, I realized that school itself didn't matter. It was getting knowledge and developing relationships that mattered more to me. So, it played a large role in me, leaving school and really realizing that school is not for everybody. You hear a lot of people talk about that. And unless you have a very specific mindset, it's hard for people to grasp that.
So then how did you, when you started doing a business so young, what did it teach you when you were first starting out? What kind of lessons did you learn that you kind of carry on through the rest of your life now?
So one of the coolest things I learned in that business, and this is something that many business owners don't realize until the end, right? And I'll give you an example, right? If you own a t-shirt company, right? What most people will do is they'll say, okay, I need to get 5 smalls, 5 mediums, 5 larges, 5 extra larges, right? And they have to spend, let's say, $5 a t-shirt. So if they're buying 25 shirts, they got to spend $150. They have to have inventory, right? So one of the things that I quickly realized is I can sell inventory before I ever buy it. So what we did, and again, this is back before eBay is what it is today, where we can use stock photos of items. And so what we did was we would put up, 10, 20, 30 auctions, right? We would sell those auctions, and then we would take the money that people have actually paid us for those items and go and buy the inventory we needed. So we didn't need a warehouse. We didn't need storage space. We didn't need any upfront capital in order to start that business. And you hear all the time that you don't need capital to start a business. And literally, aside from incorporating, which I think at the time was $125, we spent $0 starting that company. And it's something that a lot of business owners, especially in today's world, can take a message from, because so many people think, especially from a physical goods perspective, it's so difficult to manage inventory today that it does get to a point where if you have too much inventory, there's a point where you will never ever sell that inventory. So learning that quick lesson was huge huge to understanding that you don't need capital to do anything.
That's so true. But moving along with your journey here now, how did you really move into doing real estate stuff?
So, so my father's been in the real estate business for 35 years now. It's actually probably approaching 40 years now. And he has a huge love for dealing with people and, selling homes. And he's one of the top sales guys in our market. And it was a natural fit for me. And one of the coolest parts about my real estate experience was it takes a lot of agents, especially new agents, quite a long time to sell their first deal. Granted, I had an advantage because my father was in the business, but I wound up selling my first deal 9 days after I got into real estate, after I was licensed. And I wound up making $11,000, I think 40 days later. So within the first 45, 50 days of my real estate career, I saw that you can make some huge, huge money relatively quickly. And for me, it was never about the money. It was always about the deal, right? How can we make it happen? I get a rush when I get a deal closed, not necessarily when I make 5, 10, 20,000 bucks. It's making that deal happen, negotiating it and making it work. So really, I fell into real estate because it's something that I've known my entire life. But with that being said, real estate has propelled me into so many different things surrounding real estate. I'm a tech guy at heart. I know how to code, and I started, like I said, that company AIM Open House. So it's an app for real estate agents. And what it's been able to do for me and surrounding real estate is it's allowed me to stay in the real estate world, but really, live through my passion of being a tech guy. So it's a really unique relationship I have with real estate.
When you did do real estate, did you have a team under you as well?
So when I was doing real estate, it wasn't really teams like it is today, right? Today, everybody has a team. There's 3-person teams, 5-person teams, even larger, 10, 20-person teams, right? We didn't really have, we had assistants then, but there was not really like teams. Like there wasn't like a listing person and a buyer's person. You had somebody who, if you couldn't make the appointment, that person would just go. So I had people that worked with me and for me, but I was in a very unique part of the market. So, the traditional real estate agent will sell homes. Like, so if you were selling your house or you wanted to buy a house, right, you would go to a real estate agent and, you'd call up, ABC Realty and you'd get in touch with somebody and that person would show you houses. So I'm in a unique part of the market where I actually work with foreclosures. So I sell property for every major bank in the country. And so I only work with investors. So my part of the real estate business is very, very different. Unless you're an investor and you're buying and flipping property in my market, you would really have no idea who I was.
Huh. That's really cool, actually. So when you did have people under you, and how did you start growing that team? I mean, you probably have a bigger team now, I assume, with the other businesses you have going on. But how would someone go about, picking the right people for their team, or how did you go about it?
So for me, it was all about personality, right? They say salespeople are the most unique people in the world, right? So you can have a business mind and you can be really good at certain things, but being a good salesman is very difficult because you got to be able to put yourself in any situation and be able to get by, right? And the best example I could say about that is probably like if you're not comfortable going to a party by yourself, you're not going to succeed as a salesperson, right? I could walk into a party or a room or an event or something, and I'll just start talking to people, right? That's my personality. But it's really difficult for a lot of people to do that. And one of the things I always look for people that worked with me and for me was that ability, right? That ability for someone to be put in any situation and excel at it. So I didn't care if you were the smartest guy in your high school or your college class. I didn't care about sure, I wanted you to be smart to an extent, but it was about skills, right? It was about your sales skills and most importantly, your networking skills. So really what I always looked for was somebody I wouldn't mind having a conversation with all the time, right? Who do you want to be in an airport with on a 3-hour layover? I want to be able to have a conversation with that person. I want that person to be able to do the same with anybody they meet. So especially in sales, it's really important that you have that personality.
So moving along, how did you get into founding AM Open House?
So it's actually a funny story. So like I said, I've been in the real estate business for 12 years. And I mentioned a little bit that, I sell foreclosures for every major bank in the country. So just to give you a little background on that, when you sell a foreclosure, typically that foreclosure is undervalued. So if the average price in the area is $300,000, I might be selling the property for $250,000, $240,000. So I was at an open house one day, and the traditional way agents do open houses is they have a clipboard and they have a pen and they have a sheet on it, right? And so when someone walks in the house, their agent hands them that sheet. They write your name, your phone number, your email address. So I ran one of these open houses. I had about 50 people show up in an hour and a half, right? All excited. I'm in my car. I have my windows down, sunroof open, and I look over and literally in slow motion, this piece of paper twirls up and goes flying out the window. And I'm on the highway, I'm doing 70 miles an hour, and I was like, oh my God, I just lost 50 people that could have bought this house, 50 investors. And I freaked out. I was like, what the hell just happened? And I realized there was a better way, right? I was like, I'm a tech guy, but I'm doing this archaic thing using a piece of paper and a pen. Why? Why am I doing it like this? So I started looking for apps, on Apple Store and Android, and I tried to find one that would really fit my needs. And there were some out there, some of them that did, just enough, but not quite everything I wanted to do. So I decided March of that year that I was going to develop this app, and I would do whatever I can. So I started developing the app. I put it all on paper. I started developing it mid-March. We launched July 14th of that same year, so we were only in development for about 3 months with a version 1 product, and it was awesome. It was really cool to get my first app into the App Store, and since then we've had 30, 35 iterations of it as we continue to upgrade and add new features and add new integrations. So it was kind of just one of those things that I really built because I needed it in my business, and I knew that other agents can use it as well. And as it stands, 110,000 other agents agree that, they not only could use it, but they do use it.
So when you are building out, do you build out other apps now, or do you kind of just improve AM Open House?
So, AM Open House kind of got to where it can be, right? So there's definitely little things I add to it here and there. But, it's a standalone app, so any agent from any company can use it. So we don't really build agent apps unless it's for brokerage. And for brokerage, basically what we do is we take AM Open House, we put their logo, we put their color scheme on it, and we pop that into the App Store. They don't get any new features. They don't get any of that stuff. It's all the same thing. It's just a white label of our general app. So we really don't build out for agents individually. We don't have thousands of apps in the App Store or anything like that. It's one singular app that's built over and over and over again.
So if someone, we have so many people now are still getting into the whole create an app and all that stuff. What was kind of the process for you with creating the app when you first started?
So I answer this question. It's an interesting thing to develop an app, right? Because so many people have ideas of, I can make this app and it could be so great, and if I just make it, people will be there in order to download it and use it, right? And unless you're Uber, that's not going to happen, right? Most apps out there, and there are millions of apps in the App Store, are not going to take off, especially not immediately after you launch it. But the process of building an app is exactly what you would do to build a business, right? You put it on paper, you develop a business plan, you put wireframes together, you say, this is what I want it to look like, this is what I want this button to do, and this is what I want that button to do, and this is how things have to flow with each other. And if you spend the time to do it right, the building of the app isn't really the hard part, right? It's really getting your idea down on paper, so you could tell a developer, this is exactly what I want, and this is exactly what I want you to do with it. And that in itself is the difficult part. It's getting it down on paper.
Did you develop the app yourself then, or did you outsource that?
I didn't. I didn't develop it. I had someone else develop it. I always say, as a business owner, very rarely is your time best spent working in your business, not on your business, right? So instead of taking the time to develop the app and be inside of my business, what I spent my time doing was marketing that business, right? Developing a launch plan, getting people on an email list, marketing to those people throughout the process, letting them know where we were through the process. By the time we had actually launched, we actually had a video go viral. It was a whiteboard video that we had about 150,000 views on YouTube. It was a very cool experience for me, but it was one of those. It was a moment where I realized how important it was that I kept marketing and getting the information about the product in front of people. And when we launched at 9 a.m. on July 14th, and by I think it was like 9:03, we had our first customer who had downloaded the app and signed into it. And I immediately knew, I was like, I did this right. I did this launch correctly. And throughout the entire process, while I do make updates to the app now here and there, most of the time, anything I want done to the app is done by an outside developer, and I just spend my time marketing the business.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Wait, Anthony, what is something that you're really excited about with either your company or a project that you're working on, something that you see yourself doing in the future?
So one of the things I'm actually insanely excited about right now, so one of the companies I started back in August, September of this year, it's called A Social Strategy. And one of the things we've gotten asked to do numerous times is work with companies and clients to run Facebook ads and run kind of all of these different ad campaigns for people. So we're in the process right now of making a very hardcore real estate course, not only for real estate agents, but also for advertisers and marketers in the real estate agent world that want to make their business about advertising for real estate agents. So we probably have about 70 hours worth of video going on right now. And we're still editing and going through it, but it's been a really surreal moment to get to a point where, in my career anyway, where I'm really taking a different approach instead of, actually again working in my business and developing ads and doing all this stuff for real estate agents, but actually being looked to as almost an education provider where I can help other people do this for their own business. So again, being specific to real estate, I have some intimate knowledge with real estate. So this course is going to be really great, not only for real estate agents, but also for those people who want to work with real estate agents to make their careers more successful.
70 hours. Wow, that's nuts. Taking a couple online courses myself now.
Yeah.
I can only imagine all the great content you already have in there and the more you're going to add to it. But when are you releasing that course?
We're planning on a mid-August launch. You'll probably start getting targeted in the next couple of weeks with our advertising and sign up courses. So there's about 500, 600,000 agents on Facebook, and we'll be we're also advertising to people who are working with agents. So like I said, we're really planning on a mid-August, but we'll see. If it's sooner, it's sooner. We want to get the course out as soon as we can. It's
awesome. I can't wait to get targeted with the ads because it's going to help me with what I want to do later on.
Absolutely.
So Anthony, just kind of shutting things down here. What are some advice you give to our young entrepreneurs who are listening right now?
Is just go for it. Listen, everybody in life at a point is going to have a failure, and everybody in life at some point is going to have a success, right? Any business is going to be cyclical. You're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs, but go for it. Put your heart into it. And if you don't know something or you can't figure something out, we have this amazing thing out there. It's called Facebook that I didn't have when I was younger and starting my businesses. And you would be amazed at how much information you can find inside of Facebook groups, inside of in just general Google searches. But go for it. If you don't go for it, it's never going to happen. So they can find you online. Facebook
really
me,
do these days?
It's Anthony
tell our
Mann
audience where
85.
we can find you at.
Instagram is definitely the best way to get in touch with me. It's the Man 85. That's where I spend most of my time. I'm on Facebook a lot, but not for socializing. It's more for advertising. Or of course, you can always email me. You can definitely find me. Just Google my name, do Anthony Mann Real Estate, and you will definitely find me.
All right, guys, that was Anthony Mann we just had on. Definitely reach out to him. Check him out on his website. Guys, it was a great episode. There was so much content in there. There was a lot of great things going on. I hope you learned something. But you can find us more directly at dr2cr.com. Saba, what are some final words?
Anthony, thank you so much for coming on today. You shared an amazing journey, so definitely reach out to him, guys. But that is all we have today on Dorm Rooms to Conference Rooms.
Thank you, Anthony.
No problem, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Dorm Rooms and Conference Rooms. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you haven't joined our Accelerator program yet, you can find that at livetogrind.com/college, where we connect you with today's latest influencers and experts in their fields.